Hi guys, thanks for tuning in. In anticipation for the release of the Figma Femto figure coming out soon in March, I thought I'd finally crack open my Griffith figure and do a review of him. I was originally going to keep this series sealed in my collection, but I've decided to open him up and review this for you guys. Figma Griffith was originally released in July of 2012, so let's see if he holds up even after almost 5 years since his original release. And here's the packaging for Griffith. So pretty standard format Figma packaging with the window in the front. You can see the figure and some accessories inside there. Spinning around to the side, you've got a close-up shot of Griffith. And on the back, you've got some poses, interchangeable head, company information, warning labels, and stuff like that. And on this side, you've just got the Figma logo. And on the top, you've got the logo and Griffith's head. And same again on the bottom. And on the inside of the packaging, you've got this backing card, which has a perforated area you can take out to use as a display base for the DIY stage. So that's kind of cool. And the figure and the accessories are held inside these plastic trays, so you can see everything held in nicely in there. And the cape is on the bottom in a separate tray there. And here's an overview of all of the accessories that Griffith comes with. So he comes with his saber, heaps of interchangeable hands, a interchangeable face, interchangeable helmet head, his cape, the Figma stand, and also a Ziploc bag. And here's a closer look at the sword. Very nicely sculpted, looks very intricate and nicely painted. And with this sword, it can go into his scabbard, which is attached to his waist. Goes in very nicely there. And to fit a sword holding hand into the sword, for this one you just pull it apart and insert the sword holding hand into the guard first, and then basically thread through the blade and make sure it locks in place. So it's a very ingenious way of getting around that intricate guard to put a hand on it. And with the helmeted head, you can actually pull the front off, and also you can pull this peg off and then put the helmet back together, and then you can use this as a prop, so he can actually hold it under his arms. And if you want to use it as a helmeted head, you just peg in one of the faces, put the helmet cover back on, pull this head off the peg, and peg in his helmeted head. And he's ready for battle. And with his cape, it basically plugs in on the back here. So you have to put it around the shoulder. It might actually be easier to pull the head off first, so you can get these two bits over the shoulder, because this is hard or semi-hard plastic, and then peg it into the back like so. Then you can put either head on, so I'll put the unhelmeted head on first. And here are the interchangeable hands. So Griffith comes with 5 pairs of extra hands, which is quite a lot for a Figma figure. And the 2 that doesn't fit on the tree, they are sort of like relaxed open palm hands, but with the fingers close together. And then starting from the top here, we've got relaxed open palm hands with the fingers apart. And second down the tree is a pair of sword holding hands. And third one down the tree is another pair of sword holding hands, but I think these are kind of angled forward for different strike poses. And the last one on the tree here looks like halfway between open palm and sword holding. So I'm not sure exactly what you'd use this one for, but it does look really good. And the thing to note here is the left and right hand side, the amount of opening is a little bit different, whereas all the other ones are pretty much identical on both sides. So this one is a little bit more open than this one. And here's a closer look at the figure, and he looks absolutely gorgeous. everything looks very tidy on this guy. Sculpting is very sharp and detailed. Face paint and the print for the eyes are very clean. Nothing to fault at all. Skin tone's nice. These hair pieces here on the side, they're soft, so you can move them out of the way to pose the head from side to side, which is good. Very nicely detailed armor, shirt, gauntlets. Love the paint detail on the belt and the buckles. And for the armor pieces, the ones on his thighs here, they're nice and soft, so you can move them out of the way when you articulate the legs. Same as the ones on the legs, so these ones kind of peel back. So they're nice and soft, so they won't get in the way of articulation. Let's have a look at the boots. Very nice detail here for the heel spurs. I think that's what they're called. And let's spin around to the back and have a look at the cape. So the cape, it's not the most intricate looking cape I've seen, even in material. The material is a bit shiny and looks kind of cheap the way it's been cut out. There's no finishing on the edges or anything, it's just a straight cut. So, but I guess it works. It's not too bad. You can kind of bunch it up a little bit to give it a bit more shape, which is okay. And let's have a look at the back of Griffith. So you can see more buckle detail here on his pants. Very clean, very nice. And just a quick look at the helmeted head. So the sculpting on this head is very, very good. It looks exactly like it does on the in the anime. And the armor on the back of the helmet, it's kind of soft as well, so you can bend it out of the way. Well, it does bend out of the way when you go to lift his head up. So for articulation, his head can look up that much and look down that much, and obviously rotate all the way around, and there is actually head tilt as well. But if you have this head on, obviously the hair is going to hinder with the amount that he can look up. But with the helmeted head on, it's a pretty good range. With his shoulders, he can lift his arm up that much, go all the way around. And I've just noticed that the armor pieces here on the shoulders are kind of soft as well, so you can see that moving out of the way when the armor is moving. There's no bicep swivels, but he can do a bit of a rotation on the shoulders. Single jointed elbow, but with the sculpting it gives him more than 90-degree bend, which is really good. And then there's a slight rotation at the elbows, but that's, I think, just due to the joint being a little bit loose. But it isn't loose that it's going to fall out, it's just the fitment here is loose. On the wrist, he's got pin and hinge, so he can rotate his hand all the way around and also turn his hand in and out. With his torso, there's no ab crunch, but he does have a waist joint. So due to the design of the armor, the waist joint is a little bit restrictive, and if you do try to kind of bend it by force, like these little pieces will kind of move out of the way, but you end up almost taking the figure apart. So the waist is a little bit restricted in terms of what you can do here. With the hips, he can lift up his leg that much because the armor is pushing it down, but you can actually pull this armor piece out, and then that allows him to kick up all the way forward. And there is a thigh swivel hidden in there, so you can turn his legs a little bit in and out, which is good. Just tuck this piece back in. And for the knees, single joint but gives him 90-degree bend, which is quite good. And for his feet, he can tilt his feet up that much and down that much. So pretty good range, and side to side only a little bit, so it's not the best here for ankle pivot. In terms of height, Griffith comes in at just under 15 centimeters tall. First up is Figma Guyver 1. Here he is with SH Figuarts Tony Stark. Here he is with DC Icons Aquaman. And here he is with Marvel Legends Hydra Soldier. This is an absolutely beautiful figure. And at the start of the video, I was wondering if this figure still holds up after 5 years. And you know what? It absolutely does. It's a beautiful figure. Articulation is just as good as any modern figure that's coming out today. The paint job and the detailing on the sculpt is beautiful. The only thing that I don't really like is the cape and the choice material, but it's very minor. Surprisingly, he scales really well with SH Figuarts figures and also the DC Icons figures. They're pretty much the perfect size and height. So even if you don't have the rest of the Berserk line, this figure will still fit in with your other 6-inch or 1/12 scale figures. So if you're a fan of Berserk, you definitely need to get your hands on this guy, especially with the Femto coming out in March and the rest of the God Hand coming out as well. And that concludes my review of the Figma No.138 Griffith from Berserk by Max Factory. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time for another toy review.